Audiating is something that you have to do if you play a violin or a fretless bass or a cello, something that doesn't have frets or black and white keys to tell you where the note is. Singing is like that too. I don't have any black and white keys or frets. I have to hear the note, feel the note, and go for it. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to play arbitrary notes on the piano. And I'm not going to audiate. I'm just going to slap it out there. You hear that little scoop that happens every time I hit the note? If you're not audiating, you are searching for the note instead of nailing the note. And as you're searching for it, you're using a lot of energy and you're destroying it. I call it search and destroy. Audiating is putting a sixth sense in the back of your head all the time, so you always aim the ball. You hear it before you get there. There's a little voice on your shoulder that says, "It's here, Melissa," and I say, "Okay, I'm there," and I go, "E," all in a split second. E, 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 E.
One thing that she showed me that was really important with me and my brother, because my brother sings a little bit, is audiating. I think there's audiate, I think. Basically hearing the note before you sing it. And understanding what that note is before you push it out of your voice. Because if you don't know the note, no one else is going to know the note, and you're not going to know the note. So, like, what I do is when I'm playing or something, I'm singing, I make sure that I hear the note in my head before I sing it, and then once I sing it and I do, like, get my breath and I come out with it, I hit it because I know what the note is.
I've had a little more confidence of knowing that I could hit notes once, because I never sang along with a piano or anything like that. So once you know you're nailing something, but there's no, like, gray area, it's like, this is the note. And so when I would be singing or tracking or doing, like live shows, I had a little more confidence knowing that I was nailing stuff, and that's something I noticed different. And even our sound guy noticed that he's like, when you just go for it, you nail it because you just know it's there, And before, I probably wasn't doing that. I was probably a little more timid, or just thinking I was nailing a note, but didn't even have the correct pitch in my head because I don't know. I used to just be a kid in a hardcore band screaming. So, it definitely it helped quite a bit.
And here? Okay, remember what I said about audiating, right? You don't want to go, me, slide up to it, but you want to, like, when you hear the note, there's a little voice inside you that goes, okay, it's right here, and you go, okay, I'll get there, and you go, E, all in a split second. So you don't just go, me, but you actually audiate. You acknowledge where the pitch is before you get there. There are some pitfalls with pitch that I want to tell you about. Often people miss a note when it's the same note as the note before it. For instance, like in Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, twinkle, those are both the same note. Twinkle, twinkle, those are both the same note too. But what a lot of people do is they change the second note because they're not acknowledging that it's the same. They make it move. So it sounds like twinkle, twinkle. Nobody does that. I know you hear that a lot.
A lot of people, when they sing, need to build themselves up into the pitch, and she taught me to hit the pitch right away. And I think that's like a huge part of it.
Often the first two notes of a line have words like and I or if, it, or little tiny words that don't really mean a lot. And you have your kind of eye on the money note that's after that. A lot of people miss those two notes because they don't acknowledge the exact location. They think they know the song, but they go, if there's anything, if there's a, it's if there's a, if there's a. And the other pitfall is the end of the line, and I'm sure you've heard this a lot. They throw away the last line because they really don't know where it is, so they give it a lot of tood and just kind of throw it away, so every line goes. So, if there's anything that you want, if there's anything I can do, that's so lame. You need to know what the notes are. It sounds so much better when you do.
I'll go ahead and I'll jump to the front of the crowd, and I'll still be singing, but once you get that pitch in your head, you can kind of go from that point.
I have this great exercise for you to do with your tunes before you record them or perform them. It's called my hee-hee treatment, or restatement exercise. And what you're going to do is you're going to create like a dot drawing of the song. You're going to take the syllable he, On above the pencil, he, like a monkey, not e. You're going to have a little H there. And every note of the song gets a he.
Oh, the monkeys.
Yes, monkeys.
Like,
You're a monkey noise, bro.
I ain't making no monkey faces for the camera, yo.
There you go. Really laugh. They're called monkeys. That's it. Good. Okay, love your smile, but don't use it for this. It's your tight jaw that's loud. Good. If your song was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, it would be above the pencil. See, all the notes were above the pencil, right on top of the note. What happens is that once I sing the words, twinkle, twinkle, I totally nail those notes because I've created that template. So when I sing the song, it sort of snaps into the grid. It really works, and it's especially good for going into the studio.
Lies and grace.
Ready? Here we go, Ed. Sounds like the Barbershop Quartet.
For anybody that's following a band that you know has had vocal training, if you know that they've gone to a vocalist before they've done their CD, you'll hear a difference.
I went through with vocal ideas I had when we only had demos before I had really recorded vocals, and I would sing her the melody line and she'd find it on the piano and help me like nail it right to it, and that was huge because she didn't try and change what I was writing or anything like that. She just found where that was and made sure I could hear that in my head, and know that those are the notes, that's what I'm hitting. And I would like just practicing that before I got to the studio was huge, because you can practice with the band in the practice space and you're screaming along, but you're probably not gonna really hear exactly what's going on. This is like straight up you and the piano. You gotta nail it. That's all it is, And even sometimes a technique she had taught me was a way to kind of sound those out with tones that like weren't the actual words, just finding the notes. And I would even play those sometimes on a keyboard at home or on a guitar, and have those along with the track, and so you're nailing it.
In the studio, the smallest mistake makes such a big difference because people aren't looking at you; they're just listening to it. So every little mistake that you make, pitch-wise, is huge.
She was listening to our CD, she's like, this part is a little out of key. She's like, I don't think anybody will notice, but I do. And that was like all I needed to know, that like, she explained it to me. It's like, you're right, that part, she played on the piano, this is where the note should be, this is where it was, and that's it.
You also spend loads of extra money correcting pitch things. If you do a hee-hee treatment, you'll save money, and it'll sound a lot better.
Melissa kind of reiterated something I always felt was important to this style of music, is kind of screaming with a pitch as well. Like knowing that there is a note that the scream or the yell, even just like a hey, would be like a certain tone that you want to hit, note, and assign those kind of in your head as you're screaming them. After a while it'll become automatic, but I like to scream a pitch because the kind of the riffs we have are more melodic, and like they'll be hitting a lot of notes and doing harmonies, and I don't want to like just be screaming in kind of like one repetitive kind of grumbling tone. Give it a little spice, and that's something that once you do start practicing with the piano, even if you're not singing clean parts, to be able to pitch those screams and really nail them to a note or to a chord progression will just really I think it steps up your sound, and I think it just kind of can help you in the song as a metal singer who's just screaming, kind of help within the songwriting and give it some sort of that kind of hookiness, that catchiness. So and it also just the variety as well. So yeah, it's a cool thing to learn because you don't just do the typewriter death metal. No. Boo.
I want to feel like my pitch is on all the time. I want to feel like when I sing, people aren't thinking, yeah, he can sing a little. I want people to be like, damn, that guy can sing. Whether it be screaming, yelling, or regular melodic singing, I want people to be like, damn, that guy's good.
Before we ever sang anything melodic, we all kind of looked at people like that it was like maybe
A little bit much.
a little nerdy. And then now that, doing something that's more melodic, and we're both coming from hardcore where you scream more, and now you do something a little more melodic, and you see that it actually pays off. It actually helps.
You need to sing in your right range. develop the center of your voice. Your range will improve if you work from the center. I can't tell you how many students I've had that come in with really deep voices and say, I really like the way Chris Cornell sings. Can you make me sing like that? It's so stupid because you don't want to sing like Chris Cornell. Let Chris Cornell sing like Chris Cornell. You want to sing like you sing, and you want to give people the same feeling that Chris Cornell gives you when he sings. So it's not about singing his notes. It's about singing in the proper place in your voice.
I can imitate other singers' voices fine, but I'd rather find my own niche, because that's what when I respect someone's voice that's unique, like, it's because they sound completely different from anyone else.
I knew a lot of singers that I loved, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't sing like them, and I realized that trying to was a bit futile, because not only was it very hard to sing like them, but they were already singing in that voice, and I wanted to find my own voice.
Sometimes I have a student who tells me that their guitar player can't play it in that key because it's in an open tuning. And I'm telling you, there is a way to work it out. It's much better to change the guitar part and accommodate your voice in the right key.
The advice I would give to someone who's starting to sing is really focusing on finding like what you do well, you know, and really finding your own range and your own kind of little, I don't know, like just find that quality about your voice that you like and feel comfortable with.
A lot of people sing too high. That's because they think it sounds angst. But that angst comes from the heart. It should not come from your throat. Doesn't do anything, right? And the whole world's up. See, that sounds just as anxious, and it's in the right place.
That's another huge thing, is just writing within your range, and that's something that she'll really, like, you don't want to try and do these things that you know are going to actually push you into your kind of like red zone, you know, like or you know, force yourself to do things that don't feel that, you know, comfortable, because you probably are doing damage.
When you're writing songs in your bedroom on the bed, and you're afraid the neighbors are going to hear you, you're probably going to be using a light registration. So you kind of go like this, and you go like this, right? And you get to the band rehearsal, and everything seems too low. And that's because there's a whole different MO that happens when you use your voice at full volume. Twinkle, 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 twinkle. That's the same note, but the light one sounds higher in my bedroom. So don't try and figure out what your key is sitting on your bed. You need to use the whole machine to find out what your range is. Now, range is not about how high you can go and how low you can go. It's basically finding the center of your voice.
Your voice is different than my voice, different than your voice, different than your voice.
I really, really want to work on my range and see what I can do with my voice. And then I don't want to sound forced. I kind of want to find what my voice really does by itself, you know. I don't want to imitate anyone else.
One way is to check out your speaking voice. It's usually a dead giveaway. There are some exceptions to this. But if you have a really deep voice, you're probably a baritone. And if you have a higher voice, more crystalline sounding, you're probably a tenor. If you have a really deep female voice, you're probably an alto. And if you have a lighter voice up here that's on the thinner side, not thin, but crystalline kind of, you're probably a soprano.
Being baritone is like being Barry White, and being tenor is like being Ronnie James Dio, you know?
We're working on this song, but I don't know what your voices are like, right? Who sings high?
Steve sounds like Rick James.
Think about audition. Let me hear Rick James.
I don't know any Rick James.
You're a baritone. I can tell by the way you talk.
It means you get all the bitches.
Yeah.
It's
like Barry White. You know what I'm saying? Ronnie James Dio.
During the speech warm-up, we started out with a breath and then a hum. And we found that above the pencil E from the hum, if your hum is coming out in this note here, somewhere around B or B flat, you're probably a baritone. And if you're a tenor, you are probably feeling that resonance somewhere around maybe C sharp or D or maybe C. And these are all below middle C. If you are a mezzo or an alto, you are probably feeling that buzz in the speech warm-up somewhere around maybe A or A flat or G. And if you're a soprano, you're probably feeling it around B, right below middle C, B flat, maybe, or even C. Now, if you're under 20, you are probably a soprano because the voice usually doesn't darken or deepen until after the age of 20. So I would start there.
It's when you're trying to force things that aren't there, or even trying to sing in ways that your voice may just not be designed for, you know. So those are the ways you can damage yourself. So you kind of need to really just feel it.
If it hurts, it's wrong. You're in the wrong range. If you're reaching up for your voice like this and everything seems too high, you're in the wrong place. You will be able to extend your range if you start from the center and practice properly from there. Just because you're a tenor does not mean you cannot sing low. And just because you're a baritone does not mean you cannot sing high. And because you're a soprano does not mean that you can't sing low. And if you're an alto, it doesn't mean you can't sing high. It's the center of your voice. It's the color. It's the timbre. You want to work from the center of your voice and extend your range from there.
No matter how hard I would try to sing high, even when I did sing high, it still sounded low. You know, that's called the formant. Like some people can sing really low and their voice still sounds high.
But you can sing that same melody at the same pitch with a different sound.
You know what I mean? So I have a low-sounding voice, and I had to come to accept that. No matter how high I wanted to sing, even when I did sing the highest notes I could, it would still be a low sound. And I ended up embracing that and getting into it and deciding that singing my way was the only way I could sing anyway.